Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Pink and Main, and we are going to create many cards using the August 2019 Crafty Courtyard subscription box. This one was fun. I like fruit. Fruit was fun. Now this video is long because I do keep a technique in. But first, let's dig in to what you will get in your kit. So the theme for this, obviously, is called Fruit Salad, which is just absolutely adorable. So as always, it'll come in the beautiful pink box. You will get a piece of acetate that I'm going to sit here and fiddle with onto the piece of tissue. And you're going to get your cardstock. So you're going to get two pieces of white, a yellow, a beautiful lime green, a bright orange, a pink with some textured polka dots, a red, and a bright blue. Now, those colors, of course, are also on the card that you get when you receive your kit. So Yellow Brick Road, Construction, Salon, The Park, Riverwalk, and Mom's Geraniums are the actual names. You get your 4 envelopes. You're going to get a pack of yellow sequins, an awesome pack of fruit confetti, some gems in some really nice and bright colors, some pink solid and white and pink twine, these little tassels, which are absolutely precious, your button, gotta have your button, I have a neat collection. You're going to get some embossing powder from Wow, and that is called, I'm trying to look that up, I believe, and I don't have it in front of me, something marshmallow. Yeah, don't have that written in front of me. Gotta find it, see if I can. Here is your 6x6 paper pad, and they are double-sided, and they are in the continuing bright colors of the kit. So you have a lot of blended, variegated type backgrounds. Maybe you're not one to make those blended backgrounds. They are already set up in the paper pad for you. You get an adorable die set. So you get some hearts and some frames. And then here is your stamp set. Now what's great is you get the outline of the fruit, some sentiments, and then you get the solid pieces to color those items in, and then of course the awesome bag. So that's kind of the technique that I'm going to show. So if you have the finger daubers or if you have the makeup sponges, you can use those as well. I pulled out my Memento Dewdrops. So if you have other inks that are ink cubes, I find it's easier when they are smaller, when you're either using the small ink cubes or these dewdrops. The full-size pads, I always struggle. That's when I will use my finger daubers, my sponge finger daubers. So I've taken the outline of the images, and I am missing one, but I do that one. And now I'm going to grab the solid parts of the image, and I'm going to use my inks to do the shading. I'm not using my alcohol inks for these, not using watercolor pencils or anything like that. So what I'm doing, I'm prepping my stamp with my microfiber cloth so that it'll hold on to the ink well. I stamp my first color, I come in with the darker color, and I'm stamping over that. And you can see I'm getting the shading. Again, do you need the finger daubers if you have the smaller ink cubes? Absolutely not, and I will show that. What the daubers do sometimes, they help you to blend it. Now, what does help with this is you're moving quickly. So, now not too quick. So when you're putting down your first color, that ink is still a little bit wet. It's not fully dry. So when you come in with that second color, it's going to help to blend it through the fibers automatically, because the paper's saturated when it comes to the ink. Now, if you're not moving as quick, or you don't think you are, you can get a stronger blend by using either the finger daubers, or you can use the makeup sponges or anything like that. So keep that in mind. But there is a way when it comes to this type of an image to get your blended look. So you can see I'm going through, I've done the apple, I did the lemon, and I made the, it could be an orange, it could be a lime, it could be a lemon slice. I made mine a grapefruit. I did the outside in the 2 shades of orange, and then I did the inside with 2 shades of pinks. Now, what I will do is on my blog, I'll have a color chart of the Memento colors that I did use for each of my items, my images that I colored. If you have your Memento inks, then you would be able to know the colors that I used, or you could match up for whatever you have already in your stash that could be close to those colors. So now I'm working on the leaves, and again, I'm putting down the light color first. I'm just touching the edge with the side of the ink pad, and then I'm just coming in and adding those as well. They even give you the little stem for the apple. So every image that you have an outline for, you will also have a solid image as well. So kind of with this, I'm going to show you the different ways to color these images. So I'll be showing 3 ways to color the images, I believe. 3 or 4. Yeah. You'd think I'd know. So what I did with all of these images, I've cut some cardstock down, some from the kit, some from my stash, and now I'm just going to stamp my sentiments, and I'm just going to add my image that matches each of the sentiments. So these are very, very simple, very clean cards, which are very rare for me. Usually I get carried away. But I'm just looking, each image, the apple or the lemon, they do have a specific sentiment that goes with them. Almost, somewhat like a pun type of sentiment. So I'm just stamping those and getting those matched up. So it's almost, I'm doing a production line here when it comes to these cards. So these cards are just great. Great for a quick card, a quick note card that you would need just to cheer someone up. So now that I have my last one stamped, now we're going to just put them all together. But first, I'm going to use one of my makeup brushes, and I'm using 2 inks from Gina K. One is Key Lime, and the other one is Passionate Pink. And I'm just creating my background. Now again, these are the makeup brushes. And just creating just enough so that when I put my image down, my focal point, that I'm still going to see that color that I've blended out. The majority of these will have the green, the key lime, as the background. I thought that helped to make the images stand out just a little bit. And then just for the final one, for my grapefruit, I will use the Passionate Pink. Now, when I clean my makeup brushes, I use a very damp, or slightly damp, I'm on a roll, slightly damp baby wipe. So it's just got a little bit of moisture in it, and then I brush my brush onto that to get the ink off, and then I use my microfiber cloth just to dry the makeup brush. So you can see those are the cards there that we have, and now we're just going to have fun layering. I will use my double-sided foam squares to prop up the focal images just to give some dimension, but the rest of the layers are all going to be flat against each other, so I'll be creating these frames on top of each other. And again, for the dimensions of these cards that I've made, they too will be in my blog so that you would be able to recreate these if you want. I'm using my tape runner because that is quick. There's nothing, you know, because of all the flat layers, the tape runner will do just fine. My liquid glue, it's not necessary to add that, but you certainly can. Any type of adhesive that you have. By this time I've learned, stop putting the focal point before you put it onto the layers. Put that on last, and then we won't have any uneven surfaces to stick our image or put our runner tape on. I'm just going to trim down some of my squares so that they will fill up the entire back of my image so that it can have an even surface if this should go through the mail. So I think they came out really cute. I like the colors for the frames. I do like to layer cardstock when it comes to framing an item sometimes. I think just the simple cuts from your paper can add a lot, and to make that image pop just a little bit more. The size of the card base that I'm using here is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and it is a top folding card. So to cut that, you would cut it 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, and then you would score at 4 1/4, which would give you that square. And then I just went down with each layer by 1/4 of an inch. But as I said, each of those layers will be put down into my blog. Just getting ready to put the second to last one there. You can see I'm also, when I'm placing my focals, I'm kind of hugging around the sentiment, keeping them close to that, whether it's off of a corner or actually coming in on one side of the sentiment. And then the last one is our apple. And of course that sentiment is apple of my eye. So the lemon is squeeze the day. Strawberry is the very best. The watermelon, of course, is one in a melon. And then for the grapefruit, I chose so sweet of you. When you add sugar to it, it is. And here I remembered, yeah, I didn't put it on the card base. So the card base would help. And those are the 5 cards that we made. Again, just using our ink pads or some type of way to blend those colors up onto your image. So for this one, I already, again, offline, I've colored and I've die cut the rest of the pieces that I'll use for the rest of the 3 cards here. So for the lemon, I did use my watercolor pencils. Yes, watercolor pencils to color that image. So I'm using my ink and I'm going to stamp my images out. So I'm using the outline of the images. I am using my Versamark ink because I do want to do some ink blending. Or excuse me, not some ink blending. Oh my goodness. Some embossing. Okay. So I was very intrigued by this embossing powder. It looks hot pink, and it is. But it's kind of see-through. So it's got a transparency to it, which I think is really cool. And plus it's pink. Hello. So when you heat set it, it definitely is pink, and it goes into a bright pink, actually. So it's kind of really cool. But again, there is a level of transparency. I will use it for my sentiment on this card as well. So that piece is kind of our background. I'm not going to do any coloring in those images. meaning colored pencils or ink or anything like that. I'm going to come in again with my Key Lime by Gina K and my makeup brush, and I'm just going over the images. So I'm going to have some white there. I'm going to have, it looks like they're in a halo, like a cloud of this Key Lime. And I did go pretty heavy with that to make sure that I had a good, solid coverage. And I wanted the images to be basically colored in that way. I used the Pink and Main Reverse Scalloped Rectangle die set to use to cut that out using one of the pattern papers from the 6x6 paper pad. And I did choose a bright green because that would help pull out what's in the background here. I'm going to use my double-sided foam strips just so that I can pop this up off of that background, but still have it secured. So these strips are very convenient when you're looking at these trims that are very thin. They are also good for when you're doing, I like using them for a circle die cut if I'm making a shaker card, because then I can wrap it around it. It moves just a little bit better. And now I'm just filling in. This is not going to be a shaker card, but I do make one. So once I have those there, I'm going to remove the release paper, and I'm going to connect that back panel to this frame. And if I have any excess, that's fine. I'll be able to trim that using my long shears. I used one of the dies that came in the kit, the circle, and I'm going to prop that up, and I'm going to make sure that the lemon will have some double-sided foam squares as well, even though it's going to be hanging off of that circle. What was in my thought process was to put my sentiment onto that pink circle. All the sentiments were bigger. So we did not do that, which is fine. Absolutely fine. So I'm playing with the placement. How do I want that lemon to look? How is that going to sit on the card? I just wasn't sure. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to go to my sentiment, and I'm going to put that together. So again, I'm using my Versamark, and I'm going to grab the sentiment, squeeze the day. I'm going to use that same embossing powder by Well, and then I will heat set that. Once that's ready, I will use my paper trimmer just to trim this sentiment down. Again, I'm going to come in using my makeup brush, and I'm actually going to use that in the Key Lime to color the strip. I wanted the strip to have the same color tone that I used in the background. And now I'm just playing with the placement of where this is going to sit, how that circle is going to come into play. So I decided to fishtail the one end and then just set this in place where I want that lemon to sit. I just need to add one more double-sided foam square, just in that area before it comes onto the frame, where there I will use my liquid adhesive. And that is that card. So using very simple, just embossing and some ink. So for these images, as I'm covering them with my hand there, I used my alcohol markers to color these images. So what I'm going to do is I pulled out some of the pattern paper and I pulled out a couple of the blended pattern papers. I pulled out the yellow tones, and then the other one are the tones of pink. You can tell I'm looking for it because my fingers are wiggling. So I'm just cutting these panels down to be 4 by 5 1/4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 3 frame dies that come in your kit. And I'm deciding, okay, which piece do I want to be on top? Which do I want to be the background? Because I am going to make a shaker card. Now with these dies, they are great for your sentiments. They are great as frame dies. They're great for backgrounds. So these are very, very versatile. Once I have those cut out, I'm going to cut down a piece of the acetate sheet, and I'm going to use my liquid glue to make sure that's going to be secured in place. I will make sure that I put plenty of glue around each of my die cuts and then around the entire panel. Once that's set in place, I will remove the tissue paper. For me, the tissue paper kind of protects it. Yeah, fingerprints, that fun stuff. Once that is done, I will start making my double-sided foam tape designs. Let's just call it that. I covered the entire back with double-sided foam squares or double-sided foam tape. There was a lot going on when it came to this. Because of the way that I positioned the dies, I just kept on cutting pieces to cover up the back. And of course I won't show all of this. There's just a lot that's going on. But I did want to make sure that each individual opening had its own area so that I could put the sequins in there. I didn't want the entire back to be open, because then the sequins wouldn't stay in each of the compartments. This way, since they each have their own, you're always going to see them. So I'm using both the yellow, the bright yellow sequins, and also that adorable confetti. The fruit confetti. It's too cute. I'm just going to make sure I spread those out with my finger to make sure they're flat, and then carefully remove the backing of all of the double-sided foam tape that I have on this piece. Then I will try as best as I can, which it's okay that it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to try to match up the pink piece of cardstock that I cut and set that down on the back. That's what will enclose this. I tend to lean towards, when I do a shaker card, to actually create it off of the card base and then glue it to the card base. Seeing that I am finding some of that pink cardstock coming through, I am trimming that away using my long shears. I'm just going to clean up my area just a little bit, pull out the 3 items. I did the watermelon, the apple, and the strawberry. So I did choose the fruits that would be red, that would stand up against this yellow background. I'm using my white gel pen just to add some accents. Now, here's a recommendation. You want to wait until they're applied to the front of your card before you do this. Gel pens do not dry instantly. Yep, and you will see why. It was wonderful. So you can see when I'm picking up the strawberry, I went right into the gel. So I did lift some of the white gel pen from it as I was moving it around, which is fine. It's an easy fix. Going to glue these down just off of the openings that are the shakers. And you can tell I'm using those to link each of the openings together. So I did smudge the apple as well. I just added more lines with the gel pen. Not a problem. No one will ever know. Going to grab my sentiment and I am going to stamp it right above the melon. Now the sentiment that I chose, since I thought it was the most general one, is "So sweet of you." So each one of these are very sweet. I'm going to take this panel and I will adhere it to my standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to set that right down into the center, and then I will add some of those gemstones to the front of my card. I will save those pieces that are the cutouts from when I used the dies onto the front panel. I'm actually putting these down in the color in which they come. So the pink, the orange, the yellow, and the green. So we're going to keep that color line going towards the bottom. For this is our last card. So I dug into my Distress inks, and what I'm going to do for these is I'm going to put the ink on the stamp, and this is the solid one, and then I'm going to use my Nuvo mister just to add a little bit of water. Now I'm doing that off camera so that I don't get my whole table wet, but when I say a little bit, probably like 2 sprays. I didn't want it too watery, but I did want enough water there that the colors would have a texture, would have a darker side, because it would collect more on one side. So the colors that I'm using for the apple, I'm using Barn Door. For the lemon, I used Mustard Seed. For the strawberry, I used 2 colors, Festive Berries and Picked Raspberry. And then for the grapefruit, because that's what I'm making it, I'm using the Spiced Marmalade, and then for the inside, the Picked Raspberry. So the Spiced Marmalade is coming down first, and then I will come in with the Picked Raspberry. So I'm kind of doing a couple things. I'm actually, for the grapefruit, using the solid circle. So when it comes to what I'm referring to as the grapefruit, you actually have 3 pieces. You have the outline. 4, actually. You have the outline. You have the outer ring. You have the solid circle. And then you would actually also have what I used in the first set with the technique that I was showing you. You have like you can see the side cut of the slices. So that one's got a couple more than others when it comes to the layering that you can do. So you can see with the watermelon, we started with the rind, and then you have the half circle piece that will cover for the watermelon. And again, the colors that I chose for the watermelon is the Barn, and I'm going to add just a touch of the I'm keeping the Barn Door towards the top, so you can see how it's lighter towards the bottom. Usually it does get a little bit lighter towards the bottom where the rind is. I'm using my heat tool just to dry this. I do want this dry before I come in with the next step. So I'm going to use my vintage photo. We usually don't stamp with our Distress inks, but again, I wanted it soft. And I just wanted a faint impression. I am not looking for this to be perfect. As a matter of fact, what cracks me up, I actually was attempting to be off when I stamped my outlines. Yet some of them were dead on. So I just thought that was funny. Anytime when I'm trying to do this to make sure they're lined up, yeah, I'm always off. But for some reason, for these, yeah, I was right there almost every time. So it made me giggle. I'm going to come in now with the leaves. So I've got the leaf to the lemon, I've got the leaf to the strawberry, and then finally the leaf and the stem for the apple. So you can see very light misting, 1, 2 sprays at the most from a distance, just to give an impression of that color. But I also didn't want it too runny. I didn't want to add a lot of water. So once that is done, I'm going to finish up with the stem and just get that in place. Make sure I don't lose that piece. And now I'm going to come in with the, I want to do some splatters. I love splatters. So for the splatters, I'm going to use the green, I'm going to use the pink, and the yellow. I wanted them really, really bright. So I'm just going to go all around the background. Now I did make sure that this panel was dry. If it wasn't, the splats that would be going in front of the fruit would then bleed into the fruit, which again is not a problem. Everything can be fixed, and again, it's technically, you're doing a little bit of watercoloring here, or supposed to have that look and that effect, so it's all good. So I've just finished up with the picked raspberry. Now I'm going to come in with the mustard seed. I'm really adding a lot of water to these, and now I'm just going all over. Now I am not waiting in between when I splatter. I'm just letting those do what they want to do. If they mold together, they mold together. I can always correct, or I'm okay if these two bleed together. I'm going to cut down a piece of cardstock because I do want that to be a frame, and then I'm going to trim my panel down so that it'll sit on top of that frame. Now, since this is a piece of watercolor paper, it is my Canson XL, but usually when I use this, or if I'm doing an image, I do like to use my 2-inch wide double-sided tape. It's very strong. I mean, I actually get it like from a shipping company. What can I say? But it helps to keep it flat, and that's what I'm looking for that to do. I also grabbed another piece of cardstock from the kit to cut that panel as well. So again, I'm going to have that 3-layered look on my card. I'm cutting down some pieces of the 2-inch film tape, and then I will remove the backing so that I can place that down onto my layer. And again, this tape, it's unforgiving. The moment you touch something, it's stuck. So you got to be quick and be good. If it goes in crooked, it's crooked. And that's okay. I will take this panel. I do have it up on my first layer. I was thinking about adding some twine, but instead I'm going to add some fun foam so that I can prop this panel up. Again, I'm going to use my 2-inch double-sided film tape. It gives me an extremely strong bond. Once that it's adhered, I will put this down onto my other layer. So now I just have these areas. Now I did set this up above, so I have these layers going on 3 sides of my card, and I did that purposely. Going to set that down onto my card base and make sure it is straight. Just going to do a little bit of trimming across the top, and we are set. I'm going to add some of the yellow sequins to this, just to give it some shimmer and sparkle, along with some of the gems as well. I really like these gems. The colors were great. I just loved the brightness of these colors. Once I have my glue down, I will use my wax pencil so that I can set my sequins in place. So you can see I don't have my sentiment on the outside because we don't always need a sentiment. So that can be anything. It could be a note. It could be thinking of you. And again, you can always put that onto the inside of your card base. So I do hope you enjoyed the projects that we made today using the Pink and Main subscription kit for August 2019. Now again, showed you a couple different techniques on what you can do with your inks and what you can do with some water reactive inks. It doesn't have to be the distress inks, so keep that in mind. All the products that I used will be listed down below, along with links to how you can get your subscription, get it started. Or if you're looking for any inspiration or anything else, their blog and so forth will be there. If you have any questions or comments regarding the Pink and Main Crafty Courtyard subscription box, please don't hesitate to reach out and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and just spending this, so a lot of time with me. This was a long one. But I do hope everyone's having a great day. I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell so that you know when the next video is coming. Remember, take care, but remember what's most important for me. Always be creative.